In Autobiography of a Yogi, there is a chapter called The Sleepless Saint, chapter 13. And there, young Yoganandaji, still Mukunda, he begs to his guru Yukteswarji that allow me to go to the Himalayas. Because he's thinking that I need to go to the mountains, I need to meditate in the solitude, in the deep mountains, and that's the only way to achieve samadhi. Not in my attic room, not in Guru's ashram, but in the cave. That was what he was thinking. And Yukteswarji disagrees. He says, many men live in the Himalayas, but possess no God realization. And he says, you have to seek wisdom from a man of realization, not from an inert mountain. But Yoganandaji is not satisfied, so he's trying to do something. And he heard about this great disciple of Lahiri Mahashaya, Ram Gopal Mazumdar, called the Sleepless Saint. So he sets out to meet him. On the way, he passes through Tarakeshwar, famous for its healing miracles. But because Mukunda was so focused on his desire to go to the mountains and meditate, he didn't bow at Tarakeshwar. And as a result, he had to learn a lesson. So he kept walking, village after village in a very hot weather, and never reaches his destination. Yeah? The farmer says, oh yeah, 2 more kilometers. After 2 kilometers, another one says, 2 more kilometers. And goes on and on and on till the next day. And when he was totally exhausted and desperate, finally Ram Gopal appears and rescues Mukunda. And the following conversation between the two is really pertinent to today's topic. How do we worship God? So the saint asks Mukunda, where do you think you find God? And Mukunda answers, God is within me and everywhere. Then the saint asks, then why didn't you bow at the stone at Tarakeshwar temple? He's there also. You know, Mukunda or Yoganandaji is giving us a very the example that we tend to fall upon, that we think our way is the only way, this is the only way to achieve God. And we neglect there are other ways. And we neglect that God is everywhere. We forget God is everywhere, and He's in various forms of manifestation. But we have to go beyond that form. Jesus Christ in the Bible said, the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. In spirit and in truth. In spirit because God is formless. He is spirit. He is consciousness. In truth means that you have to worship God in a way as He is true to you. Meaning it is not the form that someone made, it is not the intellectual concept that someone told you to believe, but what do you perceive in your heart? That is what it means to worship in truth. What is true to you? And Mukunda, because he was trying to he was trying to achieve God communion through meditation, which is correct. But then the saint points out that you shouldn't stop there. He says, when we discover God within through yoga, through meditation, we soon perceive him without, everywhere. So, holy shrines at Tarakeshwar and everywhere are rightly venerated. So, the lesson is don't stop with the forms, and also don't separate the forms from the formless spirit that we perceive in our heart, because they are the same. And okay, so the discussion between the two continues. And Ram Gopal, being a very, realized saint, he knows what Mukunda is up to, even though he hasn't told him what's going on. So Ram Gopal says, you're running away from your guru, but you won't find God in the mountains. You have to go back. And he continues that what one does not trouble to find within will not be discovered by transporting the body here and there. So if you don't find it, God or peace or joy, love, whatever we call, if we don't find it within, wherever you go, which direction we go, we will not be able to find it. And that reminded me of the recent pilgrimages that I participated to Babaji's cave. Many of you have gone with us and know that on the way to Raniket, we usually stop by at Kanchidam at Neem Karoli Baba's ashram. And it used to be very quiet and peaceful. Sometimes it was only our group and we are able to chant and meditate long time. But in last few years, it became very, very popular and very crowded right now. So last time in November or so last year, when we went, it was packed. And the road leading up to the ashram was also completely jammed. And so we didn't really get time to sit down or meditate. And I was so disappointed. That vibration is gone, it's lost. It's not good anymore. But I was wrong. So the most recent trip in April, we again went, and it was even more crowded. Okay, but I thought, let me try to at least sit down, at least for a few minutes. It doesn't matter. So I found a tiny space between people. The people passing by, sat down, closed my eyes. The moment I closed my eyes, it was totally different. The peace, expansiveness, that uplifted vibration was there very, very strongly. And that's the lesson, that God is everywhere. The saint's vibration doesn't go away. And he's not even bothered by all the crowds, probably. It is us. It's up to us whether we are ready to receive. We are ready to tune in to that vibration. So that is, in order to see God or feel God everywhere, we first have to be aware of him within ourselves. When we have that within us, we are also able to perceive him everywhere. So the pilgrimage we have to take first and foremost is the pilgrimage within us. And what is that pilgrimage? Well, Yogananda ji said, the spine and the brain are the altars of God. So essentially, this is our pilgrimage. We draw energy to the spine, lift it up to the brain, to the spiritual eye, and in that process, we purify our heart, we uplift our consciousness, and we reach that absolute stillness of body and mind. And that is where and when we are able to perceive God within us. And all the practice that we have, techniques that we have, is with that purpose only. And so the conversation between the two, toward the end, Ram Gopal asks Mukunda, are you able to find, or are you able to have a little room where you can close the door and be alone? That is your cave. That is your sacred mountain. This is where you will find the kingdom of God. And that little space, that little cave, we all can have. I mean, it might be just a tiny corner of your room. It may not be available, 24/7. But we can at least make that cave maybe half an hour a day, 1 hour a day. It's up to us. And so let's remember, of course it's good to go on a pilgrimage, but it's right here also to take that pilgrimage every day. That's where God is.
I'll also share a few points from the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda on the best way to pray, the best way to worship. So Paramhansa Yogananda says that first, establish a personal relationship with God. And we all know that there were many saints in India. For example, Mirabai, she considered Krishna as her beloved, as her husband. And some of them considered Krishna as their master. That's why they named themselves Krishna Das, a servant to Krishna. Some of them considered Krishna as their baby. So they worship them as a baby. So you first establish a personal connection. Without connection, the worship and prayer will not, it gives the solid foundation, and when you establish a relation with God, like if somebody from random person asks you some help, you may or may not be readily inclined to do it. But if your very best friend or close member of your family whom you love, they ask for a help, definitely you will help instantly. So establish that personal relation with God. First and foremost, that's more important. That is why we affirmed for devotion, we need to open our hearts to God and offer our love to God. So that's the best offering. And he also suggests how not to pray. Paramhansa Yogananda says, do not pray mechanically, like a parrot doesn't know what it is saying, but it will very clearly say. Or like a tape recorder, just saying a mantra again and again without involving your heart or without involving, without any devotion. And he also warns us about intellectual prayer. Don't, pray with. Some people like to pray in a very grand way. In Autobiography, one of the stories where there's an island where 3 hermits pray, And their prayer was very simple. We are three, you are three, bless us. And the local pastor, he thought that this prayer is not acceptable. We need to teach them how to pray. So he goes to the island and teaches them the canonial invocations to bring Lord. And after that, when he is returning to the shore, returning back on the ship, he sees a light far away in the sea, and it comes closer and closer, and he sees these three hermits holding each other's hands and walking over the water, and says, "Hey, Father, Pastor, please, I forgot your prayer. Can you please repeat it?" And the pastor has learnt his lesson. He says, pray as you always have been praying. So it is not the words, it is not what kind of mantra, or it is not where you go to worship. Some people say, oh, we need to go to Tirupati, or we need to go to certain place so that all the prayers are heard much more intensely. There is truth to it. As Chika shared the story, there are powerful places across the world where our prayers are answered, but we need to understand that the powerful pilgrimage spots gives us and blesses us with energy, and that high energy will expand our consciousness to help us to tune into God very, very deeply. So that's the key. So you need not wait once in a lifetime to go to certain pilgrimage spot and then offer prayer. It's not where you pray that matters, but how you pray really matters. Recently I came across something on the net, and it's really funny because somebody wanted to go to a Venkateshwara temple in the United States. Apparently it was the first Hindu temple there. And he entered the location in Google, and as he was trying, he noticed that the review, Google review, they have 5 points, and some of them have given only 1 point, so 1 star. So who are these people who have given just 1 star to a temple, to God himself? And when he started reading, I'll read the exact words. So, and ironically, this person's name is called Truth Seeker. So, Truth Seeker has given only 2 stars. And he says, I've been visiting this temple since 1990. The quality of the prasad used to be excellent. I just visited the temple a couple of weeks back and kinda disappointed at how bland and tasteless the tamarind rice tasted. Hope they get back to their top-notch quality of the past. So he had a very clear idea of why he goes to a temple. And the prayer, or all the prasads, were a form of expressing a person's devotion, right? And we go to a particular pilgrimage, or you come here to join your energies and offer it to God. And that's where our concentration should be. And Paramhansa Yogananda says that the art of concentration is necessary. One has to learn to meditate and one-pointedly offer their prayer to the Almighty, to the omnipresent God. And that one-pointed intensity comes through meditation. And meditation is not just concentration, it's also the ability to receive God's guidance. Now, Swami Sri Yukteswar gave the answer to Paramhansa Yogananda: do not go to the mountains. Wisdom, it's good to see God at the feet of a God-realized person. But Mukunda, who's playing the Leela, ignored that. He did not listen to his guru's guidance. So we have to cultivate. Without meditation, we won't be able to reach out to God. Now, all of you are hearing me through this microphone. So Paramhansa Yogananda gives the same analogy. Meditation is the microphone which will take your prayer to God. It will enable you to reach out to God. And he says that the intensity matters. Again, as we read in the affirmation, willpower itself is desire plus intensity. That depth of your prayer matters. So worship God with deep aspiration. And don't worship God for things. Pray to God for God, to receive Him. And whose prayers will be answered instantly? For example, if a person is studying 1 hour a day, another student is studying 5 hours a day, who's going to get good marks? The one who studies with concentration. The intensity matters. And there's also a funny story which you might have already heard. A pastor goes to the gates of heaven, and before him there is another 6.5 feet tall guy with golden chain and huge rings, leather jacket. To his bone, he wasn't seeming to appear like a sattvic character. So when the gates of heaven opened and Saint Peter came out, he called him and he asked him, "Tell your name." And he said, "My name is Bob. What were you doing?" "I was a taxi driver in New York City." "Okay, here is your golden staff and golden clock, so you can come, you are welcome into the heaven." And then the pastor walks and he says, "I'm so and so, and I was associated with the church 50 years. I've been, sermoning all in the same church." And he was given a wooden staff and a cotton robe, and he asked, "Hey, what's this?" "That guy got something in gold, and this is all you're giving me?" And he was a taxi driver. And Saint Peter answered that, "Well, when you were giving your sermons, people were sleeping, but when he was driving his cab, people were praying to God intensely." So the intensity of prayer really counts. So pray with intensity. Demand, and that demand, how will it come to you? Right now, when Nayaswami Nyandev shared this, one of his friends was chanting, "I want only Thee, Lord, Thee only Thee," and "I want only Lord, I want only Thee, Lord." And he slowly went next to him and whispered in his ears, "Liar, liar, pants on fire." Because do you ask yourself, do you really want God alone? No, we need 1,000 other things. That's the truth. So we have to cultivate that devotion. It's not going to fall into our laps, and that is true meditation. Now, I'll end this satsang with a prayer given by Paramhansa Yogananda from the Whispers of Eternity. And this is called Prayer at Night. So he says that in this prayer, how he started praying and how how God did not appear, and what did he do to feel the presence of God. So the prayer goes, "With closed eyes, I sit in the temple of night and worship thee. The sunlight revealing a million alluring things has vanished. One by one, I have closed the doors of my senses, lest the fragrance of the rose or the song of the nightingale distract my love from thee. I am alone in this temple. I have left everything. But where are you? Come, show myself." The thronging million thoughts and past experience come not into my sacred temple. I run everywhere to find thee. Ah, where are you? I stand up mentally and madly rush through the dimly lighted temple. Finding thee not, I return again. I sing outwardly a loud prayer. My large teardrops and strong gust of prayer almost extinguish the taper. So he's saying that he has closed all his senses, and he ran everywhere in the temple. He couldn't find God. And he said a loud prayer. He couldn't find God. But now then the prayer he continues. I will pray no more with words, nor rush and run about in the temple of darkness, nor drown the taper with my tears. I will sit still and command my breath to make no sound. And that, commanding your breath to make no sound, to get into the stillness where you can perceive God, not everywhere, but even within yourself. That is the state of that's the best way to worship. And he also says that he's given a definite way that meditation is the best way to worship. He says that suppose you are a financial, moral, and a spiritual failure. True deep meditation affirm, I and my Father are one. And when you feel great joy, God has answered your prayer. And then you have to pray, I command my brain cells to change, to destroy the grooves of bad habits and that have made me a puppet out of me. Lord, burn them up in thy divine light. So, command to God, demand to God. He also says, do not pray to God like a beggar. He has always called all the prayers given in this book, Whispers from Eternity, is called prayer demands, because he says, first establish yourself as the child of God, and then rightfully demand what is yours from Heavenly Father. Thank you.